Okay, everybody, I'm back again so soon. I wanted to catch everybody up with what happened at town meeting. We had the final chapter in our annual town meeting Monday night at town hall, and a whole bunch of people showed up. Actually, there were 151, which is a little just over the quorum, or just over double the quorum, I should say. Not the quorum's 75, I think. So 151. We doubled the quorum, which is still good. That's a drop from the high. I believe it was 261 on the first night, or 264, something like that, on the first night, which was back in May. I didn't get a count on the second night, but it was a lot. So I think this is the lowest number we've had out of the three. And excuse me, Monday night was really to vote on the budget, to go through the budget, which I'll tell you that it took a lot to get that even started, but they got through it. I ended up leaving. I had a long day, and it was just a lot of arguing back and forth. And I just said, I'm tired, and I was tired. I hadn't eaten all day. I said, I gotta go home, and I'll just find out later what happened. And so I did find out later what happened. And well, the budget, and then there was one question lingering, and that was the override. As you might be aware, the Board of Selectmen had another override question on the town meeting warrant, so they didn't get to it. They held it until after the regular budget was done. So that was the last question that was done, I believe. So the override passed. So my concern here is this keeps happening, that the board has been, the last few years, on occasion, there's been a town meeting of sorts, a special town meeting or annual or something, and an override will pass, and then when it gets to the election, it doesn't pass, because you have to have two. You have to have you have to have both a town meeting vote and an election vote to have an override pass in totally. So the override passed at town meeting, but now we have to have a special election to have the vote. Even though we didn't pass it in April, this is a different article altogether. It's a smaller number. I'll bring that up in a moment so you can see what it is. But I want to talk about what my concerns are, and I'm sure I'm not alone. Those of you that are watching this can figure that out for yourself. In April, the vote against an override in the election, because they had the override in the main election, the municipal ballot for town officials at the end of April. It was an overwhelming no on the override. 1,100 people said no, and I don't remember what the bottom number was. The losers, the people that were in favor of the override, wasn't more than 400. I don't even know if it was that high. I don't remember. I didn't look it up. It doesn't matter. It was overwhelming. There was no doubt that the majority of the voters in Townsend do not want an override, at least as of April. So we fast forward to this week, and I don't remember the particulars on the last one. I think one reason it was a general override. Only they didn't specify anything, and I think it was a larger number in April. I don't remember. And I know my thoughts, my experience over the last several years, more than a decade, has been nobody has a good taste for an override to begin with. So it doesn't matter what the number is. It's been enough. And April really was the biggest margin I'd seen, I think, in a long time. I didn't do the history on it, but I was like, okay. I know when we almost passed the override last year, it actually, we thought it passed, but they did a recount, and then it lost. The override failed by one vote. So that was kind of funny, actually. Like, wow. And somebody did, we thought it passed by one vote, and then they did a recount, and it actually lost by one vote. So here we are. No, so this April, the margin was so bizarrely huge that there was no point. Doing recount isn't going to make this matter. So here we are. Selectmen redid it, and the last time we had a pass, which is last year, the same year, the same numbers, the same request. We had a special time meeting, I think in March. I think it was last year, or it could have been the year before. Everything's happening in this past year. Holy cow! It was 2024. It was a year ago, just over a year ago, in March. There was a special time meeting. It was to try to get an override for the schools, and it actually passed in the special. But then when it got to the election, it failed, or it passed and then failed, and they might have had, I don't even remember. But it seemed like every time I turned around, we're having another meeting. Last year was just too many meetings, and we're doing it again this year. Hopefully they'll give up. Well, they're coming here anyway. The so and that gives it's a false sense of security to the select board when they get a win at the town meeting, and then when they go to the election, it's a whole different ball game, because it's a smaller number of people go to town meeting. A lot of people just don't want to do town meeting. They don't want to sit there, and they don't understand everything anyway. They don't know what's going on. And I don't criticize people for doing that, because people have busy lives, and there's no requirement in this country to go vote, and town meeting is a commitment. You're there sometimes for a few hours and even a few days, as we just did. We haven't really had this issue with town meetings in a long time, where we have to go back multiple nights. Years ago, that was pretty commonplace because there were so many things to vote on. Now it's, I don't know, just important stuff, I guess. So I'm going to talk about what happened, or what we had at the town meeting the other day. 151 voters said yes. No, 151 people were at town meeting, at least at the beginning. That's who checked in. And then they had the vote at the end of the night. And that was, so it was less than 151 people. Oh, okay, let me see. Oh, where'd I put somebody? I gotta find it again. Sorry. About 82 said yes, and 38 said no. And I guess they had to do a count. I had left early, so I'm getting this from a very reliable source. So about 82 people said yes, 38 said no. They had to call out the counters to get this number, which makes sense because people will yell very loudly, and sometimes it's hard to tell. And John wanted to make sure, so he did a count. And I don't think there's a minimum. Anyway, so it's 82 to 38, which is less than 151. So a few people a lot of people went home, but we still had a quorum. There's still plenty of people for a quorum. 111, 10, yeah, whatever. I have a headache. I can't go. But anyway, so if a couple 10 or 20 people went home, and they weren't counted in the vote. Oh, plus some of the people, yeah, the vote wouldn't be, some of the people running town meeting don't vote in a meeting, but they check in. They make the quorum, but they don't vote usually. I think it's mostly for their own preference, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so that was the number of people that voted and were counted. So all 82 people actually said yes out of those who were present. So when we had the election in April, 1,100 people said no. So comparatively, I'm not going. I hope no one should be going to the bank with this number. And unfortunately, the select board sometimes gets overexcited. Oh my God, it passed! It passed! Maybe they'll pass at the election too. I don't know. That's not been the situation for the years that I've seen this happening, where the voters will vote in town meeting, and then it's a whole different set of voters that go to the election. The town meeting people, certainly the people that said yes, who really do are really adamant that really want to see this override pass, they'll vote. They'll go vote on a special election if they can, and you'll have bigger. There probably will be another 1,000 people will come out to vote in the election, which will be more than the 100 or so that voted on Monday. So it's a whole different ballgame when you're doing the election. And based on the history, I'm not really even telling you what to do. The budget's a disaster. There's a number of issues, a lot of distrust for the select board on how they've been managing the finances. We've got the significant ethics complaint, the ethics finding, the ethics, really bad ethics thing. Oh, I'm going to give you more information on that. But there's a lot of distrust by the townspeople, and I'm, you know, trying to just have an override when we don't know what's going on with the money is frightening. And the select board have not started negotiating with the unions, so it's a mess. And they were waiting on the town meeting to see whether we'd vote for the override, and now they still have to wait to see, because they claim that they don't know how much money we have, and budgeting is not fine in stone. You can budget $100,000 for a line item, knowing you don't need that much, and knowing that 90,000 is probably all you need, but you budget for 100,000 so that you're not going to be short. That is normal budgeting. I mean, this town has been we got a penny, spend it, and this is not. It's not good business. So we're really in a pickle, and this just all happened in the last 6 years, which it's frightening. So people are concerned. They don't like this, but usually when you're dealing with union negotiations, we've never had to do this before. We've always budgeted enough money, which does not give union. You still negotiate with the unions, and you're doing it behind closed doors. And unions know, and because you tell them, we're budgeting this. Doesn't mean we have this money to spend on you. We're still negotiating a fair contract. This is cushioned because you're not the only issue. It's not just unions. There's emergencies. There's unforeseen circumstances that come up for overtime, for whatever, and that's for every job in town, not just the bigger departments. It's mostly the bigger departments, but no, I mean, you budget more than what you normally should. But we've got such a tight ship here that they're not budgeting. They're budgeting probably less, which they just did with snow and ice. And they spent it all. I'm not even going to go there. But I don't want to go too crazy on the budget, but this is why people are concerned. That we're overspending. We've borrowed money. They're not even paying the principal down on our loans. They're paying interest only because we don't have the money. We're really. I'm going off. Sorry, but I have concerns, and I think I'm not. Well, I know I'm not alone. There's a lot of voices at town hall, at the town meeting, giving their concerns from all kinds of directions, and I consider myself relatively independent on some of the voices that are being raised. I'm not, I'm going to say I'm not in cahoots or with others on issues. I do talk to other people about different things. We ask each other questions and say, well, what do you know about this? What do you know about that? And is this right? Is this wrong? How does that work? And so we do talk. I do talk to some of the other people who are raising their voices, but we are separate. We have different opinions. I don't agree with everything. Like the FinCom did their own peach budget and all this stuff, which was never voted on at town meeting. That got pushed aside, which I kind of agree with. I like that they did do something, and they did cause some changes. They did. Someday you might hear about it, but um, I think it's important to hold the board of selectmen or the select board accountable. It's they're responsible for doing the budget. For the FinCom to have to make up their own budget gives you the select board an opportunity to say, I don't know, it's theirs. No, it's yours. It's always going to be yours. No matter who actually does it, it's the select board who's responsible for this. If they can't figure out the budget and somebody else has to do it, then my God, quit. This is, it's not supposed to be this way. So, all right, I'm going to try to stop talking now. I'm not stopping. The video's got more to go, but I wanted to bring up, I did on the town website, they have the special town election stuff. Oh, I guess I got to tell you when that is. That is on July 29th, will be the special election. They have to do it that far out because they have to have the ballots printed. Or the town clerk has to do all this stuff. Has to get the ballots printed and all and make sure voters are registered and all that kind of stuff. And and you have to give so much notice before an election can actually be done. It's like I think it's 64. What are we? Well, I guess it's only 30 something days. I thought it was like 64 days that you need. I don't know. This is what they're doing. Okay, let me pull this up. I'll find it. There it is. Can you see that okay? I'm going to pull it up somewhere else for myself. All right, I'm going to read this to you. July 29th, special town election. Special town election for the purpose of considering a Proposition 2.5 override to fund an additional $258,827 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purpose of funding wages, salaries, and benefits for the town's operating budget for fiscal year 25. Had been called. Uh-oh. 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 I gotta call Harrison. This is not valid. For town's operating budget for fiscal year 25 has been called for Tuesday, July 29, 2025, and will take place from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Memorial Hall. Blah, blah, blah. Question 1. Okay. Phew. I was in a panic. That's not the ballot question is where things will be a problem. And it's okay. I just read it. It's okay. Question 1. Shall the town of Townsend be allowed to assess an additional $258,827 in real estate and personal property tax for the purpose of funding wages, salaries, and benefits for the town's operating budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025? Yes or no? Now, it's the override, yes or no? Do you want an override, yes or no? When I was panicking a moment ago, the explanation, the lead up paragraph there had a very bad error in it, but it's not, doesn't matter. That's not the ballot question. The ballot question is good to go. It does not give the fiscal year that they were speaking of. It just gives the fiscal year beginning July 1st, which is fine. That is perfectly fine. The explanation above it says fiscal year 25, which was the one that we're ending in a couple of days. July 1st begins fiscal year 2026. So, ah, panic, panic, panic. So I'll put myself back here somewhere. There it is. All right. so, so that's that. I will let Harrison know. Whoever fixes the website, I don't know who's doing that today, but I think Harrison still has access. But I'll have him fix that. But the ballot question is perfectly fine. There's no errors in it. And when, assuming the ballot actually says that, then we'll be fine. And that's that. So they did put the purposes. I think I understand there was some haggling at the town meeting floor to get this article when they were voting, and they probably made motions. I don't know. I didn't stay. I missed this exciting part of the town meeting. But they specified that it's for salaries because this is the selectmen's excuse all along, or recently, is they got to negotiate with the unions. Ooh, and they got to know what they're doing, and they don't. That we know. And then it's a low number of 200. I'm looking at fine print now. Where is it? 258, 827. Okay, that's a much smaller number than has been proposed in the past. So I guess that's a good thing. But whatever you want to do. All right, I'm going to get that out of here. We don't need that anymore. In fact, I can remove it. I'm not going to pull it back up. Stop that screen. Okay, so that's that. We've got the override. And we're back there again. Let's have some more money on elections. So somehow this election has to be paid for. I don't know. Don't ask me. I'm not in there anymore. It's all them. So one more thing I want to tell you, but that's all I have to say about the override. It's coming. The override vote is July 29th. And further information, you can go onto the website or you can watch this video again. You can do both. Share this video with your friends. Do like the video. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It really helps make sure that my videos can get out to more people and to people that need to know, and share with your friends. So the other big issue I want to talk to you about is a little bit of a follow-up on the scandal video I just did, where the water superintendent is facing a hearing on the ethics violation, and Gary Shepard was involved with improper bidding procedures over the building of the water treatment facility, which the water treatment facility is all on loans and using grants and the proceeds from a lawsuit from PFAS to provide us with the funds to pay back the loans on building the water treatment facility. And my concern and those of other people is this ethics thing, because it was the building of the thing was improperly bid or managed. The bidding was managed unethically, and Gary Shepard improperly did on it and won the bid, and he had been improperly provided with information. I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't lawsuits by other contractors. That's another concern I have. I don't know that our insurance would cover that. They probably have to. I don't know. Or who'd be sued? Well, the town would certainly be sued for the contracting problem. We could include a payout to other contractors for damages because they didn't build it, but they were not provided with the same advantage that Gary Shepard was. And when I did the video, I was unsure. I wasn't sure of what was going on. As I was going through everything, I realized that there was a potential that Gary had already settled, and that is what happened. As I went through, I realized that, oh my, Dave was provided an opportunity to settle and to pay a fine and just acknowledge his wrongdoing and make some kind of a negotiated settlement. with the state, and he didn't do that. He was offered it based on everything that's happening. There is a public hearing that's being in the process of being scheduled, and he, in that announcement, the explanation from the state is prior to them giving an order to establish a public hearing, the accused has an opportunity to make a settlement. And Dave didn't. From what I've understand now, that Gary Shepard was also accused. I'm assuming because he wasn't simply acting as a contractor. I'm going to make some assumptions in here, so I'm not saying things are completely factual. They're just what I understand, what I've seen, what I've heard, what had to have happened. And we can sort this all out. And as things go, I will certainly update my thoughts and facts and what things might, how things are going. There will be a public hearing in the next 90 days for Dave. And as far as Gary's involvement, he was improperly provided information from Dave so that he could make a bid, which was completely illegal. That but Gary was accused of ethics violation by the state ethics committee or commission, not a committee, and they offered him a settlement, and he did negotiate a settlement. He paid a fine. So I don't know if contractors get into that pickle. I think this is where I'm not 100% sure, so nobody sue me. I'm just saying this is what it looks like, but I don't know for a fact. This is the question. I don't think contractors get into these settlement agreements as contractors. I think Gary Shepard was acting in his capacity as the fire chief when he reached out and was talking to Dave and getting information from Dave. And he was using his position as a fire chief to get information about the plant and what kind of things were going on under the guise, I'm assuming this is an assumption, that, the only other department other than all of us who needs to know more about water and hydrants and things like that is the fire department, because they need to know everything. Where's the water? What's the pressure to be able to protect our homes and property and in the woods and everything else that the fire department takes care of. This is important. So under the guise of pushing the initial stages, getting the information flowing, he was functioning as a fire chief, but yet using it for his bid. In the accusing documents, Dave Vijant, who's the water superintendent, spoke to not just Gary, but other people in some of his companies. Gary has a couple of different companies, and they were all working on this project. The drilling company, which I believe that's the drilling company that's making all that mess in the harbor right now by the harbor lights. They're doing the sidewalk. I don't know. I don't know if it's Gary or not doing the sidewalk. Could be. Probably is. But underneath, they were doing a pipe that goes underneath the road. That's for I believe, septic. Is that septic or water? I can't remember now. I want to say it's septic. There's so many projects, but it was his company, I believe, doing the drilling to go underneath the 119. It was talked about in between planning and conservation, and Mass DOT was involved. You got to watch a whole bunch of video, town meeting stuff to get the point on that. And I can't remember who's on first on all these different things, but he has a drilling company that puts water pipes in and sewer pipes underneath things in going distances, so that you don't have to dig up build a trench, dig a trench anymore. You just go underneath with this equipment. I don't know. Gary would probably like to tell you all. I don't think he should be telling us anything anymore. But anyway, but his all of his companies were involved with talking to Dave and getting information about the bid prior to putting it in, and which is totally unfair advantage, and where the other bidders did not have access to the information that Gary did. And I suspect that he was functioning in his capacity as fire chief. And I think that's really sad. That's bad. That's not good. Um, he was complaining at town meeting the other night about all these investigations. We shouldn't have these anymore. Oh, really? I think we should have more. More. The town meeting video from the other night just dropped. I haven't had it to drop while I've been talking to you. And so it's on the town's YouTube channel if you want to go watch it. But in there, Gary did say something which I think was pretty stupid, considering everybody was up in arms that night about the ethics investigation. And here he is complaining about all these investigations that apparently don't apply to him. I don't know. He thinks people don't know. But anyway, that's my suspicion, is that because he did pay a fine. In fact, he told, how I know this is every week or month, or is it weekly? I don't know how often, but they have department head meetings. And Gary told everybody at the department head meetings last Tuesday that he paid a fine. So I guess as far as Gary's multi-million-dollar business over there, paying a fine for ethics is just it's just the cost of doing business. And I think in contracting, that's true. That's doing all kinds of side deals, back deals, and for some contractors I'm not going to say it, but making certain payments often can happen, and this is the cost of doing business for many contractors of the nature that Gary is in these large scale operations. And so just paying the fine is a business expense for him. Unfortunately for Dave, and these fines come out of your pocket. These are not fines that the town is paying. And if they do, it's more illegal than the whole other piece. So if we find out the town's going to try to pay any of these fines, we need to report it to anybody that will listen, because it's more illegal than what happened. But Dave's fighting it. So I am looking forward to what Dave has to say at his hearing, because I think that it's going to be interesting. I think he's got a lot to say. I don't know. I haven't talked to him about this. If he wants to talk to me about it, I will, but I'm not going to go digging, because I'm sure it's a painful time for Dave, I'm sure, to have this happen. I suspect there's a lot more to the story that I've reported on. I can't say exactly what, but my suspicion at least is that Gary got his fine because he was functioning. He used his position as a fire chief to get that inside scoop inappropriately. And I think that's where this really took off. And that's where it stands right now. But there'll be a hearing at some time in the next 90 days on that. And the reason I did this video right now is for the special town election on July 29th to vote again on the override. If it fails, I hope they're not going to try to have another special town meeting, because we're just going to keep doing this. And the other concern is July 29th is the middle of summer. Hopefully people are still around that want to go to town meeting. Not town meeting, town election. You can do absentee ballots. If you want to vote and you're going to be out of town or something, speak to the town clerk, and he can get you set up with an absentee ballot. There'll those kind of things. All right, I think that's all I have. What time is it? It's 4 o'clock. Wow, it's earlier than I thought. There's a Conservation Commission meeting tonight if you're interested. I looked at the agenda. I can't remember anything standing out. There was another one a couple of weeks. You should. Oh, never mind. I'm not going there. But there's town meetings of some committee meetings and all this stuff all the time. So I'll try to keep you up to date on what's going on. Sometimes I get swamped. All right, I'm going to stop talking. So that's all I have. I'm going to close out this meeting, and I will see you on the next video. Maybe I'll see you around town.